Hey everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. So welcome to Let's Paint Live. So we teach an hour-long class the first Thursday of every month. And our goal is in an hour to teach you how to do new techniques, fun finished artwork that's seasonal. So today, of course, fall is in the air, my favorite season. So we're going to do these cute fall leaves, fall branches with these cute little birds. Again, techniques are always different. Today we're going to be doing kind of a pen and ink, a watercolor look. So just something fun and unique. We are always using the Let's Paint Live kit. So tonight we are also using everything in our Let's Paint Live classes every month includes what you would get if you have the Let's Paint Live kit. So I'm going to show you guys the paints that we're going to need, the brushes that we're going to need, and there's always a few extra things, the canvas, a pencil. So first things first, I'm going to go over the supply list, but I wanted to let you guys know that the entire class live in the studio is Dylan. Dylan will answer any questions, he'll relay them to me, he'll say slow down, speed up. We're also teaching tonight live on TikTok. So if you guys have any questions, he'll put all the links to the product, but reach out to us so that you can have the best, most successful class possible. All right, so first things first, I'm going to go over all of the FolkArt acrylic matte paints that we are going to use. And again, if you've got the Let's Paint Live kit, you've got everything that you need. But if you're doing open stock, let me show you guys what we're going to use. Okay, so we're going to use berry wine. We are going to use pure orange, all beautiful fall colors out of the kit. We're going to be using daffodil yellow. We are going to be using only one blue, and that is this really pretty French blue. And then a couple different fall colors. We've got cinnamon, we've got coffee latte, and we've got coffee bean. Really nice warm brown tones. And then of course always black, so you'll have licorice. All right, the things that are different for tonight's class is we are going to be using FolkArt Home Decor chalk paint. And I'm using white Adirondack. And the reason that we're using this is super exciting to me, is FolkArt matte acrylics. They work for everything that you would do, blending and shading and highlighting and Donna Dewberry one stroke, but they're also perfect for a watercolor. But the key is turning your canvas into a super, super matte, chalky finish, which allows you to create all of these watercolor finishes. So that is done with FolkArt Home Decor chalk paint. And then, of course, the Let's Paint Live kit comes with all of the brushes that you need. But if you're not working out of the kit, I just always try to say a medium, a large, and a small flat brush will get you through all the techniques that we're going to do tonight. If it's not the same size, if it's not an 8 or a 10, that's okay. Medium, small, and large flat brush. And then, of course, water, of course, a palette. And then the only extra things you're going to need is a pencil for our pattern and a thin, fine tip Sharpie or permanent black marker to create the pen and ink look. Okay, that's all we need to get started. And you guys, we are doing two. If that seems like too much, just do one. The same exact techniques are used on both. I just thought it would be fun to have a complimentary set. But again, we're doing the same techniques. Everything is the same. So just have fun learning the new techniques. Okay. Oh, and a blow dryer. You guys, the reason we use a blow dryer is because we want to teach everything in an hour. So we cheat a little bit and we accelerate how quickly things dry. But anyone that has worked with FolkArt matte acrylics, they dry really fast anyway. Okay, so 2 8x10 canvases. I tell everyone if yours is a little bigger, a little smaller, a little taller, whatever you are painting on is perfect. Because again, the ultimate goal is to learn fun new techniques. All right, first things first, all we are going to do is base coat our canvas with white FolkArt Home Decor chalk paint. And I know some of you are saying, well, your canvas is already white, so why are you base coating it white? I'm not base coating it for the color. I'm base coating it because the FolkArt Home Decor chalk paint will basically turn this canvas into something that accepts all of the techniques of watercolor paper. your paint will blend and bleed, and you can create all this shading and highlighting because of the FolkArt Home Decor chalk paint creating that ultra matte chalky background. So that is why we are base coating a white canvas white. Just a pretty even coat, doesn't have to be perfect, you don't have to worry about the edges, but you just don't want to have too much paint, and you just want to have a smooth finish. So I'm going to base coat both of my canvases. I've taught this technique before, and a lot of people say, well, what if I don't have this, or what if I don't have that yellow? Can I use a different yellow? For the colors that we're using, absolutely. Use whatever color you want. If you want a brighter blue sky and you don't want to use French blue, or if you like more reds in your fall leaves, perfect. But one thing that you have to have for today's technique is you've got to have the FolkArt Home Decor chalk paint, because the techniques that we're doing on these canvases won't work on a traditional canvas, just because it's not an ultra matte finish. It's more of a, I guess, a standard canvas is maybe a satin finish, a little bit slick, and the chalk creates the perfect surface to do watercolor techniques.
Kirsten made a question if you could use a sponge applicator for the base coat.
Definitely. However you want to create your base coat is perfect. Okay, so good even coat, and now if we don't have any questions, I am just going to hit that with a blow dryer, because we definitely want to work on a dry surface. Any questions, Dylan?
Yeah, we've got a lot of people joining us on Facebook.
Yay.
Country, Wisconsin, California, Pennsylvania. Hey, everybody, welcome in.
Hey, everyone. Okay, so all I'm going to do is make sure that both of my canvases are completely dry. I think they're told, yep. Kind of hold them up and make sure. You'll see if it's shiny, it's still a little bit wet. One little section right there. Perfect. Really a key part to tonight's technique is that base coat is dry. So just make sure it's completely dry. But you see how quick and easy that is to dry with a hairdryer. Okay, so maybe what we'll do is we'll focus on one at a time, so it's not at all overwhelming. So I never provide a pattern, and the main reason I don't ever provide a pattern is sometimes when you have a pattern, you end up just kind of coloring paint by number style or color book style, and then you miss learning all of the techniques and having the painting just be uniquely your own. So what I want to do is create a pattern. So you've got your dried canvas, and then you've got your pencil. And I don't want you to sketch or draw a bird. I don't want you to sketch or draw these leaves exactly as you see them. All I want you to do is basic shapes, like the bird is an oval with a rectangle tail. His little head is a circle sitting on top like a snowman. The leaves are just really basic shapes. I just want you to apply a pattern for placement only. Okay, so I'm going to find the middle of my canvas and really lightly, because we are doing watercolor technique and we don't want to work to cover up our pencil, but really lightly, I'm just going to kind of sketch an oval. And no, it doesn't have to be right or wrong. You're just placement for your composition. And then on top of his little body, I'm going to put another little circle. I wonder if you guys can see that. Oh, maybe. It's really, really, really light. Yes, you can. Let me see if you guys can see it. I wonder if I should do it darker. Oh, nope. Look at that. You can see it. See, it's not perfect, but it's just a little round oval for his body and a little circle for his head. And then for his tail, I'm simply going to do like a rectangle. And then I'm going to know that he's got his little feet, but I'm not going to draw the details. And then I'm going to draw the branch that he's going to sit on. And I'm going to kind of divide it up at the top. And maybe another little branch comes out here, and maybe one more down there. Let me hold that up again so you guys can see. Oh, yeah, see, it's absolutely not a drawing, but it's placement for where you're going to place your paint. Showing this to both. Oh, there's a delay on the TikTok one. I want to make sure you guys can see it too. Can you guys see? It's not at all a drawing. It is just placement. Okay, and then for the leaves, I know I'm going to have a big leaf up here. So all I'm going to do is basically a shape. Not the shape of the maple leaf, but just a shape for placement. I know I'm going to have a leaf here. So I'm just going to kind of mark it. I know I want another one down here, maybe a big one coming up behind the bird, and a little one right there. So you guys, look at that awful little sketch, but it just gives you confidence on where we're going to place color. Let me see if I can show the TikTokers. Is that what you call it? They call them? Dylan always makes fun of me. But see how it's not at all a good drawing. It's just placement. Okay. So with that, you've got your pattern, and now we're going to we're using very, very little paint today for tonight's technique. A little bit of coffee latte, a little bit of cinnamon. You guys really just the tiniest little amount of paint is all that you're going to need. A little bit of cinnamon. A little bit of licorice.
Monica had a good question. Do you erase the pencil or do you paint over the markings?
So, that's a great question. So no, a lot of really professional high-end watercolor, seeing the pencil is part of the artwork. So nope, you never erase. That's why you do a really, really light pencil pattern. And it covers up. But also we're doing pen and ink, so that will also help cover up our pattern. All right, a little bit of pumpkin orange. That was a great question. A little bit of berry wine. And I'm not using any of the yellow or the blue yet for this painting. Okay, guys, so I'm going to use a medium brush. So this is a 10, but a 10, a 12, an 8, any of those will work. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to wet my brush in the water. Let me see if I can get this over here. Dylan's challenging me to work on 2 angles.
Sorry.
So I'm going to wet my brush.
You did pretty good at one.
And then I'm just going to wet the area. Not sopping, not big puddles, but I'm going to wet the area where my branches are. Thicker than your pattern, of course. You can see that in the painting that we're doing. But I'm just wetting that area. And then adding water, first maybe to the light brown. Can you guys see? Nope, the TikTok people can't. Let me put this right. I got to figure out where you guys can see. Oh, right there. Okay, so that's the paint. I want to show you guys that you're using almost all water with just a little bit of the paint for color. And then you're just going to float that on your pattern and where you've applied the water. And see how it kind of bleeds and blends out? Oh, that's the beauty of watercolor, is it kind of just has a little mind of its own, and it creates these beautiful colors just by working on the wet canvas. You don't want so much water that you create a mess, but you definitely, to apply paint, you definitely want to have water down first. And then same exact area. All we're doing is kind of shading the branches. I'm getting that dark brown, which is the coffee bean, and no rhyme or reason to where I'm applying the color. Like I've already got the light brown. I'm just going to kind of jump around and add a little bit of the darker brown to give you that texture and that detail. I'm going to use that same brush, and I'm going to use, wait, I got to move it over here to the TikTok side. So this is the black, the licorice. Very little paint and a lot of water. It's really inky and watery consistency. Not too much black. Black can dominate and take over, but just some. And when you put it on that wet canvas in the area where your branches are, you see it bleeds together. It just creates its own little existence. It's really a fun technique. I'm going to get a little more of the dark brown just because I love the rich color in that dark FolkArt coffee bean. Maybe it's the underneath side of the branch or the bark. You can add a little branch if you want to. Again, just placement for where you're going to add those leaves in a minute. But I hope you guys can see, because it's a wet canvas. Oh, make sure you guys can see it, whether you're on TikTok or on Facebook. It blends, it shades, it creates that really great edge. It's just a beautiful effect. All right, I'm going to clean that exact same brush that we've been using, a medium flat brush. And now I'm going to wet the area where I marked a leaf would be. So up here I've got a leaf. I'm going to be a little bit more random with the edge of my leaf, because what we're going to do is these maple leaves on this first canvas. So I'm just going to do some points on the edge, not an exact leaf, but just some points on the edge. I'm going to leave that there in hopes that you guys can see it. There's not a good spot for it. Okay, I'll move it back and forth. But we're only applying water. And same thing, not big puddles, but just wetting the area that we're going to add paint to. Okay, then we're going to mix. Get over here on the TikTok side. That's the pure orange. I'm going to add water, mostly water, a little bit of orange, and I'm just going to let that color, I want to make sure you guys can see it. See how when I just touch in the area where the wet canvas is, the paint starts moving and bleeding and creating that great effect. Add more water if you need it. I'm going to add a little bit more down here. Want that leaf a little bit bigger. This one's perfect. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing, a little bit of that berry wine. Look, just barely any paint. I don't think you TikTok camera. Let's see if you guys can see it. A little bit of berry wine. Can you guys see it? Nope. I got to scoot even more. A little bit of berry wine, and then mostly water. That's such a beautiful color. And I'm just going to kind of add that. Oh, look, see how it's blending and moving? Oh, that's so beautiful. That is, oh, see, look, when it does it, it's so perfect. I hope you guys can see that. Again, we're working on a wet area, not a wet canvas, but a wet area. And because we've got that matte, super matte base coat, and then we've wet that area, that's why we're able to get all of this fabulous shading and highlighting with the watercolor. So now I'm going in and I'm just adding some more orange. If you like the berry wine best, if you wanted a little yellow, if you want true red, whatever color is your favorite for fall, Just keep adding it to that area. But let me hold this up. First for the Facebook people. See how it blends in all the areas that you've added water, and it creates that really beautiful effect. And then this guy. Oh. So see how it kind of blends. I don't want to put it where it runs, but see how it blends and shades, and it just creates that really beautiful look. That is what we're doing with the watercolor. All right, so if you want some more color, go back in there, you can add a little bit of the cinnamon for a little bit darker leaf. You can add a little bit more orange. Always adding water, never using the FolkArt directly out of the bottle, because tonight we're doing watercolors with FolkArt, which FolkArt matte acrylic does so many different wonderful techniques. But once you've got the leaves, the color, the fall feel that you want, now same exact brush, and I'm going to wet the little area where the bird is. So he's an oval. I'm going to keep that shape, because remember, our paint goes wherever the water is. I'm going to base coat his little head, and I'm also going to base coat his little tail, wetting the area. And then I'm going to go into the dark brown, the coffee bean, mixed with water. So there's coffee bean and a whole bunch of water. And then I'm just going to start applying color first to the top of the little bird, maybe the top of his head. See where the paint stops, where the canvas isn't wet. So that's just a rule of thumb when working with watercolor, is when you're working on a wet area, you've got the control, but anywhere there's water, that paint will go to. A little bit of the black. Don't forget, black goes a long way, so a lot of water when you're using the black. I'm just going to highlight his little tail, maybe give him what represents a little wing, but letting that all blend together. Maybe the top of his head has got some black. Clean your brush when you switch colors. Now I'm going to do a little bit of that lighter tan, just for his belly, maybe fill in the wing. You can always add water and just touch the area with just water, and that'll blend everything. You got to be really willing to let your painting kind of do its own thing when you're doing a watercolor or something that's more abstract like this. It's a really fun technique. It's fun to let the paint do what it's gonna do, but it might take a minute just to get used to the technique. Maybe a little bit under his belly. So then, with just black, not too much water, I'm gonna go in and just using the chisel edge, I'm gonna add a beak. Let me see if you guys can see that. That's really the only detail that we'll do without water. So I'm just using the chisel edge of the brush, which is the flat end of the bristles, and just making a little beak, because that you want to be defined. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, make sure you guys can see this, with his little legs. Didn't add any water to my canvas. I'm just using that chisel edge to attach his little body to the branch. So those are the only two areas that we're not using water. All righty. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to set this canvas over to the side, because I don't have huge puddles of water, but I definitely have some areas that are wet. So I'm going to let that dry while we do the exact same technique on the second canvas. So same things, guys, we're going to make a pattern. And for this one, I'm going to have the bird face the other way. I'm going to find the center. I'm going to do a little oval for his body, a little oval head sitting on top of the big oval. His little tail's going to be pointing down this time. And I know his little legs will come out there, so I'm going to have the branch come up from the bottom. Maybe a little branch that goes that way, a little branch that goes behind him. And same thing, for the leaves, I'm not going to draw all the details. I'm just going to put placement. I know I want some big leaves up at the top. I know I want one coming off of here. Wherever you want those fall leaves. I had one there. Maybe I'll have one right there. All right, let's see if I can hold that up so you guys can see another beautiful drawing. Look at that. It's just shapes, branches, bird body, and placement for your leaves. If I turn it right, you guys can see it. Ooh, look at that. All right, now for you guys. Dylan, you're awfully quiet. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, no, but Diane said it looks a lot more forgiving than actual watercolor.
Oh, I like that. You know what? I think the forgiveness in this is that we're only wetting the area that we're painting on. A lot of traditional watercolor, the whole canvas is wet and the whole painting is wet, and there's all of these different techniques. I hope that means that it's easy. I hope that she's having a good time doing it. Okay, so same as before, I'm wetting my brush in just water, and I'm going to wet the areas where the branches are. And just using that pencil pattern as a guide. And then I'm going into the exact same colors. There's the brown with mostly water. I just want you guys to see when you float that on how it goes all the way to the areas that are damp, but then it stops. It's kind of magical, actually. So this is the dark brown. Again, if you want to just pull the brown into the areas you'll add leaves, that's kind of a nice guide. I'm going to add water to the lighter brown to get some different colors in my branches. Same brush, I'm going to go into the black. Just a little bit. Maybe the underside of the branches where the sun wouldn't be hitting. Create kind of a shadow. I like a little bit darker, so I might just add a little bit more of the dark brown. Okay, so there's a branch. See how quickly that shades and highlights, but just using just the two colors and then the black. So I'm going to wet the areas where the leaves are. My pattern is just a basic, basically oval shape, so I am going to make more of a maple leaf edge, but just with the water. This technique would be so fun and easy for Christmas because you could wet just big circles, and then you could use these same techniques to do a painting of so many beautiful Christmas ornaments, different colors, but just the circle is the area that you're working in. That would be a fun way to do Christmas. Okay, so add daffodil yellow to your palette. It's the tiniest bit. I'm going to add a little up here for the TikTokers. And then everything's the same, a lot of water and a little bit of paint. And then just start floating that color onto the areas where your leaves are. I'm going to hold this up. I hope you guys can see. It's kind of hard to see. Oh, see how it just bleeds and creates that really nice, unique edge. Oh, let's see if I can do it over here. Yeah. Oh, maybe. There we go. See how it just bleeds? All because you're working on that wet area. All right, I'm going to do a little bit of the cinnamon to darken up that yellow. That yellow is way too bright for fall. If your area is dry and you don't have enough water, definitely re-wet the area where your leaves are. But I'm doing a lot of the cinnamon, a lot of the daffodil yellow. And if you want to add orange, you guys, definitely add orange. If you want your yellow to be even a little bit darker, you can add a little bit of that coffee bean to your wet brush. Using cinnamon, yellow, and brown, I can guarantee you'll get the fall color that you like best. The only thing that matters here for this technique is that you're using the FolkArt with a bunch of water though, not directly out of the bottle. Okay, a little bit more cinnamon. Oh, I love fall. It's my favorite time of year. Okay, so there's some fall leaves, the yellow. I'm going to clean my brush, same thing we did before. I'm going to wet the bird body and be pretty specific that just an oval, keeping a dry edge, then his little head, and then the little rectangle for his tail. And once that's wet, I need a little bit more of the dark brown, the coffee bean. I'll bring some of that over here. Okay, I'm going to start with the coffee bean and a lot of water. And I'll maybe start with his little back, a little bit on his tail. I'm going to add just a touch of black to the coffee bean to darken him up just a little. And this little guy I'm going to give a little orange belly to. So that's the pure orange. Just going to apply that right over the brown, and they'll just kind of mix together and create all those different tones. He's a chubby little bird. Just a tiny bit of black on his back, maybe. A little bit for the wing. And maybe a little texture on his little tail feathers. And maybe just a little black where I know his eye would go, so it kind of looks like he's wearing a little mask. You can just keep adding and layering color until you get exactly what you want. So same as our first bird, I dried off my brush on a paper towel, and I'm going to just dip it in the black, and this is the only time we're not using a lot of water, and using the chisel edge, I'm just going to create his little beak. And then I'm going to fill that in. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing. No water, but I'm going to connect his little legs to the branch. Okay, so you've got, let me scoot this over so you guys can see it. You've got the beginning or the base coat to 2 fall bird designs, but the fun stuff is about to happen. Okay, so the yellow one that you did second, set it to get a little time air drying. The one that you did first should be almost dry. I've got a few tiny little areas with water, but not much. So I'm gonna hit that with the blow dryer. Any questions before I do that? Okay. Okay, so he's dry. And now we're going to do the background, the sky. And we're going to do exactly the same thing that we've been doing. Let me bring this guy into the photo so maybe that helps as a reference. I'm going to set him right on top of some wet paint. All right, we are going to wet the background. But the only thing that matters here is don't overlap what you've already painted. Don't wet the bird, don't wet the leaves. Just kind of fill in the big open spaces where we're going to add the blue for the sky. But don't worry, like don't go in between his legs exactly. Don't go up and around his beak exactly. We're just filling in those areas with this soft blue, but leaving a lot of the canvas to show. So you can see I'm not outlining the leaf, I'm not outlining the bird exactly. I'm just creating the soft blue background by wetting most of the background of the canvas. Let's see, I'm going to add that blue. This is the French blue. Same as what we've done, a lot of water mixed with the FolkArt. So it's really thin like water.
I do want to say really quick, if you're watching on TikTok, you can find our YouTube channel at Plaid Crafts. So yes, this video will be posted to YouTube and on our Facebook page. You can go back and watch the lesson.
Perfect. Okay, so see where the blue just moves and goes wherever your canvas is wet. But you want that outline, you want the areas where the canvas shows, but add a little bit more blue in areas that you want dark, let that blend together. Wet the canvas as you go, because it does dry pretty quick. But don't create an outline and don't overlap the areas that you've already painted, because you don't want that to all muddy together. And I'm only using that French blue, but depending on how much paint you've got on your brush or how much the water moves it, gives you those different values of the same color. Let me move this over here, make sure you guys can see it. So this is all wet, and I'm just adding that blue, and see how it kind of moves around and does kind of what it wants to do, creating that really beautiful abstract sky background. I'm going to wet this little area under the bird and a little bit here, maybe a tiny bit around his legs, but not too much, because I don't want the blue to go over the legs and muddy the whole thing up. I like the way the canvas is showing through. The reason I wet the canvas first and then apply the blue is if you just mix the blue with water and painted that on your canvas, of course that would work fine. But with the canvas being wet and then you're applying the blue, you get all of those different values. You get where the paint moves in the dampness of the canvas, and you just get a really different, authentic watercolor look, rather than just a wash or a stain. So that's the fun part of working on a wet canvas. Okay, I hope you guys can see that. So you've kind of got your sky, you've got the outline, you've got some bare canvas, which is really, really nice and part of the composition. Okay, so we're going to set that first canvas to dry. We're going to bring back our little yellow bird. And same thing, most of it should be dry. I've got a few little areas that are wet, but almost everything's dry. So I'm going to hit that with the blow dryer. Oh, okay, totally dry. You guys might have seen I had a little drip there where the water actually blew with the blow dryer. That's actually a traditional watercolor technique where you blow the paint and you create these really cool patterns. So if that happened, do not try to change it or fix it. Just let that be part of your painting. Okay, so just like we did on the first one, I'm simply going to wet the areas that we're going to add the blue. Same rule applies. Don't go over the areas you've already painted. Leave some white canvas. Don't make huge puddles, but just wet the area so that we've got the same look for our little set of fall birds. Still just using the French blue mixed with water. You guys see how that just moves on the canvas? It's so fun. Gonna wet this area behind his little back. The tiniest little spot around his legs, just so it matches the rest of the painting. Still only using that French blue. You guys could also use navy though. You could use more of a teal. Whatever matches your home decor or just the looks that you like for fall. You can always go back and add a second layer of the blue if you want just some areas that are darker. But I love that the whole thing just kind of blends and shades when you're working on that wet canvas. I might do a little bit up here just to darken that section of the sky. All right, I think that might be it. Okay, so you guys should have, I hope, completely base coated 2 fall birds. One's a little bit more yellow, one's a little bit more orange, but lots of fun watercolor bleeding and blending and shading. So some really basic base coats that are in watercolor only. Okay, so we're gonna do the orange one, the one that we did the blue first. And now we're going to do the pen and ink, which is fun. Look at it more as just doodling, like you're on the phone and you're not thinking really hard of the pattern that you're creating. You're just adding detail by doodling and sketching. So what we're going to do is make sure that this is completely dry. So if you've got big areas of water, I don't think I do, but look on there if you've got any areas that are really heavy with water. Maybe just touch it lightly with a paper towel. You don't want to remove too much because you'll remove some of your color, but just barely touch that with a paper towel. And then I'm going to blow dry that. Okay, I think it's totally dry. You can tell, move it, wiggle it a little bit, it should have a really matte sheen. I think it's totally dry. One more little section. Okay, I think totally dry. And that's really important only because we're doing the pen and ink now and you want your marker to work as best as it can. Okay, so now simply doodle. Of course, I always say if you like just the really soft watercolor, leave it and skip the ink part. But all I'm going to do is kind of sketch, outline, just very little details. I don't want to create an outline that's exact because that kind of doesn't go with the composition. I'm not going to outline the areas where I've watercolored. You can see, here's a great way to show you guys. So the orange bleeds outside of my doodle, outside of where the leaf is, but embrace that. Don't outline the areas that are orange because you may not get the true representation of a leaf. Allow the pen to create the pattern and then the watercolor just be the color. So just be really, really loose and have a good time with the doodle. So I'm going to start with the stem just because it's kind of the easiest section. And I'm just going to do a few lines, maybe a few little hashtag lines that just create texture or what would be bark or wood grain. Again, I'm not outlining, I'm not creating, a color book pattern. I'm just being really loose and really sketchy to create just some details. Nothing more than that, is just some details. This would be something, you could do with a gold marker. That would be really pretty. You could do it with a thicker black marker if you like the heaviness of the black doodles. But I like just the thin, really fine details. Let me see if you guys can see that. See how it just enhances the watercolor? I've only done it on the stem. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the little bird. Maybe his little belly. Maybe a little bit on his beak, maybe an area that would be a little bit darker like his little eye. A little wing. Not a perfect outline. Some little details, maybe little feathers or texture underneath. His beak. And then the leaves, of course, I'll create the center of the leaf. But then don't forget, I'm not following the orange. I'm just doing what would be a really basic sketch of a leaf, and sometimes it's the edge of the color and sometimes the color goes outside of it. But see how the two techniques complement themselves? Let's see if you guys can see. See how sometimes the orange is on the outside, sometimes it follows closer to the marker, but it just gives you the details, which is really fun. So the center, and then just the basic shape of the leaf, maybe some of the veins. Pen and ink is so much fun because there's no right or wrong. You're just sketching over really fun watercolor areas and adding as much detail. I got to turn that a little bit. As much detail as you want. All right, there might be one. I think that's all the ink I'm going to add, maybe a little bit more in the center. Okay, so there's one pen and ink little fall bird. And then I'm going to scoot him to the side, and I'm going to do the same thing with the yellow one. Make sure it's completely dry, which actually, I think it might be, nope, a few areas with the blow dryer. Totally dry. And then the same thing. I'll do the stems. Stems are the branches. And then the leaves, just like you did before. Same with the little bird. I'm going to do a little bit on his beak, a little bit of his, make a little spot for his eye. Little details on his little tail feathers. But really sketchy and really loose. You don't want to outline him. All right, guys, I think that is, so you've got two little canvases, one that's more yellow, one that's more orange. You've got a really fun pen and ink look. And then just a fun finishing touch is taking your medium brush and just a little bit of licorice, add some water so it's really thin like ink. blend that on your palette. And then don't have it just pouring out of your brush. Kind of brush to the side of your paint so it's filled with paint, but not too much. And then take another brush, any brush or even a pencil would work, and hold the brush on the end. And I like to just tap lightly, and that'll give a little fly speck pattern, the finishing touches to your abstract pen and ink watercolor. So that just kind of ties everything together. It gives you that great little speckled pattern. And you guys should have two really cute, I hope, watercolor pen and ink fall bird collections that are great for gifts or great for your fall home decor. So anyone have any questions? Nope. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed tonight's class. These are also saved if you want to go back and look at them. We love to see what you create, so hashtag Plaid Crafts. And the first Thursday of every month, so stay tuned for next month's class. Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.